Welcome to Mr. R's art class. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Thumbs, subs, and ring that bell. Okay, so what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to show you how to make a grid on a blank sheet of paper and transfer your printed image to the blank sheet of paper. First, we need to put a grid on the big sheet of paper, and we also need to figure out which direction is this blank sheet of paper. And that's important because that determines where this X is going to go on the big blank sheet of paper. So we need to make sure that our blank sheet of paper is sitting in the same direction as our printed image here. So again, our printed image is horizontal. So our blank sheet of paper should be sitting in front of us right now horizontally, longest from left to right. So right now the blank sheet of paper is sitting in front of us vertically. So that means we need to make sure that our blank sheet of paper is sitting in the same direction as our printed image. So now our image and our blank sheet of paper are sitting in the same direction. So we're going to set our printed image to the side. And first we need to make a frame so that we know where the X is going to go on this bottom left hand corner here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make a mark at a 1/2 inch. Make sure that your 0 on your ruler is lined up with the left side of your paper. 0 is that first black mark. And you're going to make a mark at a 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch is 2/4, or look for a space that's about half of your inch. And you're going to go ahead and line your 0 with that mark you made, with the 1/2 inch mark you made, and you're going to make a mark at every 2 inches. So every even number, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and 16 again. So you're putting a mark next to every even number. And you're going to go ahead and slide your ruler to the top. You're not rotating your paper, you're not rotating your ruler. I'm just sliding my ruler to the top. And I'm making sure that my 0, that first black mark on my ruler, is lined up with the left side of my paper. I'm leaving a little piece of paper on top showing so I could make my marks. And I'm making a mark at a 1/2 inch. Again, that medium-sized mark. I'm going to scoot my 0 to that mark, and I'm going to make a mark at every 2 inches. Every 2 inches. The big lines next to every 2 inches. The big lines next to every even number. And I'm going to go ahead and connect those marks. Make sure when you're connecting these marks that you're drawing them lightly. I might draw them a little bit darker than you should be, just so that you can see it on the camera. Because eventually these marks and these lines will get erased once we transferred our image to this big sheet of paper. And again, the reason why we're drawing a grid is so that it could kind of give us a little bit help here without tracing our image, and kind of get us a little bit more comfortable with drawing without tracing. So again, when you're making these lines, you're drawing it light for 2 reasons: because we're going to erase these lines, and in case you make a mistake and your ruler or your pencil kind of goes off a little bit. Okay, so my frame is over here on the left hand side. We connected all those marks that we made. Now what I want to do is I want to rotate my paper clockwise so that the frame's on top. So your frame, that 1/2 inch frame, should be on top. And our paper is sitting in front of us vertically now. And you're going to put your ruler, your 0, on the bottom left hand corner. 0 is on the bottom left hand corner. That first black mark is 0. Should be lined up with the left side of your paper. And we're going to do the same thing we did over there, is we're going to make a mark at a 1/2 inch, that medium sized mark. I'm going to scoot our 0. Black line should be lined up with the 1/2 inch mark. Make a mark at every 2 inches, or every even number. So there's not as many marks here because our paper is shorter in this direction. And we're going to slide our ruler to the top. Again, you're not rotating your paper, you're not rotating your ruler, you're just sliding your ruler to the top. Now we're in that frame that we made, that original frame, and 0 should be lined up with the left side of your paper, making a mark at a 1/2 inch. Scoot your 0 to that mark, scoot your 0 to that mark you just made at a 1/2 inch, and you're going to make a mark at every 2 inches, the big lines next to every even number. And you're going to go ahead and connect those marks from one side of the paper to the other side. Make sure you're going all the way to the edges. You're drawing all the way to the edges, and also make sure that you're drawing lightly. in case you make a mistake. And also draw lightly because eventually these lines will get erased. These lines are just guidelines to kind of help us figure out where we are when we're transferring the image. So your line should look a little bit lighter than mine. I just want you to be able to see on the camera here. Last one. Okay, so now we're going to rotate our paper. Again, this is going to be a horizontal image. And so we should have a little square on the bottom left-hand corner. And we have the frame on the bottom and a frame on the left. And so you're going to draw an X, just like a printed image. You're going to draw an X and that little square. And you're going to do the ABCs here on the left-hand side. And you might have some extra space here because this big piece of paper is a little bit bigger than our printed image. The scale of it's a little bit bigger. And then numbers on the bottom, just like our printed image. Again, some extra space. And you could go ahead and start focusing on one square at a time. Again, the reason why this grid is so helpful because it kind of helps you focus on one square at a time. So you could either start here at A1 and start kind of looking at little hints here as far as where some of these details go. What I like to do is I kind of like starting out with the outline, and so I'll kind of start up here at E1. So E1, E1, and then I'm going to find E1 on that big piece of paper. So E1 would be right here. And again, I'm looking for little hints. So this shoulder is kind of starts right here at this corner. But then you have this helmet over here that kind of goes a little bit less than halfway of this E1 square. So a little bit less than halfway would probably be there. And then I have his shoulder that kind of comes to about halfway of that. So again, you're focusing out one little square at a time. And this is going to help you get a little bit more comfortable with drawing and not tracing. So this, again, this is a grid transfer, and you kind of want to draw your lines lightly even when you're drawing the actual image itself, just because you might make a mistake and you don't want any pencil marks at the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw this in, and then after it's all drawn in, we're going to go over with permanent marker, and then we're going to come back with an eraser, and we're going to get rid of all the pencil marks so it looks nice and clean. And again, you're looking for little hints here. So right now I'm in E3. So E3. And the top side of this helmet kind of is right there. And then I'm going to come in and draw this side of the helmet. And this looks like it starts inside E2, the bottom of E2. And it kind of just comes up just a little bit. But then it drops back down into D2, so D2, D2. And again, you're looking for little hints. It looks like this kind of crosses over from E to D about the halfway point, so E to D is right there. You're looking for little hints when you're drawing this little by little. And this kind of crosses over from D2 to D3. This is about halfway of the square, but this looks like it's a little bit higher than halfway, so maybe around there somewhere. And again, you could either start with the outline of this image and work your way inward. That's what I like to do, is kind of get those big parts done first, and then kind of work in on some of the smaller details. So let me kind of show you what that looks like. And this is what it would look like once you kind of get everything drawn in. Again, this is a little bit darker than you would normally draw it. You're working one square at a time. And again, what you want to do, the reason why it's in pencil right now is we're going to come over this with marker. All the lines here that you have in marker. Maybe some of these spots, like inside of the hand here, you might not want to go for a marker. You might just want to come back with pencil. Just because it's grayer, and you just have some of these other spots that should be actually darker, like in the arm here. And so we would go over this with marker, those areas that you want to go over with permanent marker. come back with an eraser, get rid of all the pencil marks, get rid of the whole grid to make it look like we drew it on our own without tracing. And again, this is just a tool, a technique that we use to kind of get you a little bit more comfortable with tracing or get you comfortable with not tracing. So if you have any questions, go ahead and let me know. Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And feel free to watch any of the other related videos.